Hello and welcome to the Dungeon of Strength. I am going to be showing you the original strength resets that you're going to want to be pairing with all of the standard bodyweight and kettlebell movements that are going to be appearing in this month's Inner Circle program. Before I do, I want to make sure that I cover a couple of things. The original strength resets are not a bunch of high tension drills. They're going to help you to improve your ability to generate tension, but it's going to be reflexive. So one of the things that means is that if you're familiar with the protocols, say of like Strong First, where they do a lot of high tension drills, it's perfect for the Strong First teaching system, all right? It's a little bit different with original strength because we're trying to generate reflexive tension or reflexive stability and not feed forward tension. So they're just two different things, all right? So feed forward tension is not bad, it's just not what we're working on. And it kind of defeats the purpose of learning how to teach your body the way to move the way that it's supposed to move without having to be forced to do anything. All right. So the high tension stuff is better left for later on. For right now, when you're doing the original strength resets, you want to stay as relaxed as you possibly can. All right. So part of that also means that you want to make sure that you can breathe in every position that you're in. If you can't breathe, that's a good sign that you should not be in that position. Again, this pertains to the original strength resets more than anything. There are plenty of reasons to hold your breath if you're doing, like, let's say a max rep squat attempt or military press or something like that. It doesn't really fit well with original strength. Okay? Last thing that I want to point out is that there's no need to force the full movements of any of these things. Doing partials or just doing whatever you're capable of doing without forcing the finishing of the movement, which I'll cover in a moment, is going to get you much better result than doing the entire thing. Okay, so the first movement that we're going to be covering is the segmental roll. We're going to do both on the back and on the stomach. And the stomach is the prone one, in case you're wondering what the terminology is in the Inner Circle. So I'm going to show you how to use partial segmental rolls and get a lot of benefit out of it. And the same thing is going to go for the other things that we do. All right. So, now that we've got these ground rules down, the other thing that I want to say about the original strength resets is that they are all very simple, not at all technical. They're just a few guidelines that you need to follow. Yours are probably going to look a lot different than mine, so you don't want to try to make the shape of the exercise, or the movement I should say. You want to actually perform the movement. So there are certain things that you're going to be looking for while you do it, so we're going to be focusing on those things. All right? Now, first things first, we're going to start off with the segmental roll. So you want to lie on your back, just like so. This is going to be the one that you'll be doing with the Turkish get, alright? So from here, what you're going to do is you want to tuck your chin, lift your head, look over to the side, and you're going to reach, okay? Now when I do this, I like to reach kind of down at an angle. You can also reach out to the side like this. Both are perfectly fine. I just feel like I get a little bit better core contraction while doing this. Okay, now this is a partial. Partial might also look like this. I mean, it could look like a lot of different things. It's just not the full movement. The full movement would be that I would continue until I flop over. Alright? So one more time, I'll show you the full one. Tuck the chin, the head, look to the side, reach, like so. Partial, of course, is just any part of that. Alright? Something to keep in mind. Now, the next one that we're going to be doing is the prone segmental roll. And from here, the main thing that we're trying to focus on is doing the exact same thing but in reverse. So you're going to lift your head, look over your shoulder, and you're going to reach. This one's a little bit tougher for a lot of people. So again, if you can only do the partial, even if you can do the full one, don't be embarrassed. Okay, so lift my head, look over my shoulder, and I reach. Nice and easy. All right? This one is a little bit more experimental, but I'm pairing it with the high pull for a very good reason. So the high pull is meant to have your arm in this position or what have you. So the arm is reaching back. So this should start firing up a lot of the musculature around your shoulder blades area and make it a lot easier for you to pull the kettlebell up into position. I want to reiterate, as I did in the Inner Circle, you don't want to twist with this, all right? The idea behind pairing the prone upper body segmental roll with the high pull is to get these muscles activated, not to try to make the shape of the movement and twist along with it. Okay, high pull, you should stand firm, stand still, just like that, right? No twisting. now that we've gotten that one out of the way, next thing we're going to do is we're going to be doing the elevated roll. So I'll be showing you something that I intend to turn into an article for Original Strength at some point in the future. For now, suffice it to say that you'll be among the first to see it. There are a couple of variations on the elevated roll that I like quite a bit, and some of them really fire up the upper back as well as the glutes and hamstrings in a very powerful way that the standard variation by itself is pretty good at, but doesn't completely do. Okay, so the standard version would be you would start off in a push-up position, and then you're going to reach one leg back, and then as you're doing it, I like to lift my head to the side until I can reach up like this. Okay, look in the other direction, reach with the hand, and return. One of the great things about this is that in addition to firing up all the muscles in between your shoulder blades as well as all down your lower back, your glutes, hamstrings, everything like that, is that it does also engage the pressing muscles like chest, shoulders, triceps, and what have you. So you'll get a nice bit of support in your pull-in movements by doing this, and theoretically with your pressing movements as well. This works very well for upper body pulling. I found in particular for pull-ups, this is a very good thing to do in between sets. But it's also very nice for lower body stuff, all right? So if you're going to do, and I think part of that, by the way, has to do with the glute and hamstring activation and the strong hip extension. So one of the things that you could consider doing is doing this with, say, sets of swings, see how you fare, all right? But for right now, that's neither here nor there. I want to show you a couple variations if this one's a little too scary for you, or if you can't quite get the rhythm right, all right? So another good option is to do them on your knees. Okay, so you're going to look over to one side, reach across, and end up right here. Another good one from there is to start down here, do the exact same thing, reach, look, and repeat. You've already seen the standard variation, but I'll demonstrate again. Look, reach, reach. And finally, the plank variation, look over your shoulder, reach, like so. Alright, all of these, you might try a couple of different ones, see which one works better. You may find that as you get fatigued, an easier variation is a better choice for you. No matter what, these are all very, very good, and I think that you're going to find that your rows, or if you decide to do pull-ups, either one is going to feel pretty good after having done it. Alright? Next one that we're going to cover is going to be the bird dog rock. So bird dog rocking is something that is really phenomenal for helping to improve your hip stability, which many of us are lacking, and that will go a long way in helping to improve your single leg deadlift, which is also going to help with your hip hip stability, but also your single leg strength, which I think is incredibly important. Much more important, or at least useful, I would say, than bilateral strength. So for example, front squats, excellent exercises. Standard deadlifts or swings and everything like that, also very good. But most of us have some imbalances, and the larger they get, the more likely they are to cause injury. So one of the great ways of helping to smooth out those imbalances is to do single leg work, like single leg deadlift in particular. All right. So standard bird dog looks like this: reach, touch, reach, touch. Right. This is used most often as a remedial, well, not remedial movement, but we'll say forget it, it's a remedial movement for your crawling, right? Now, just because it's remedial doesn't mean it's bad. In fact, it's very, very good for helping you to connect the X on the back of your body and really tie yourself together, all right? So what we can do from here is we can combine this with rocking. Now, standard rocking is going to look a little something like this, all right? So you can do rocking with one leg, you can also do it with one arm. What we're going to do is we're going to combine it with the bird dog position. So we get into the bird dog position, rock back, rock forward, and tap. Rock back, rock forward, and tap. Now again, this is a movement that you can do partially. That's perfectly fine, because what you might find is, let's say your mobility is not yet up to snuff, or your control is not yet up to snuff. You might try to go back and then end up doing this. That's not something we want. I'd rather you go back just a little bit, all right, than go all the way back and lose control. The other thing is that you might find that maybe you can maintain a good position, but you're really forcing yourself out of the bottom. You don't want to do that either. Partials work very well with this, so don't skimp on them. Right? So, speaking of rocking, I just showed you the bird dog rock. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the slow commando rock. So a little bit of background on this. A good friend of mine in Australia, Bill Savage, told me about these. He recommended doing 5 minutes of slow commando crawling. Slow commando rocking before pressing, and I started doing that before my military presses, and my kettlebells would just fly overhead. As a matter of fact, that became my routine prior to doing my military presses, and when I had to recertify my level 2 Strong First kettlebell certification, it was the easiest press I'd ever done with a 36 kilo kettlebell. And I wasn't really pressing all that much in terms of volume. I would never do more than 30 presses in a session, or 30 double kettlebell presses, which is practically nothing. It's really relatively low volume for a pressing program. And I would only do it 3 times a week. And again, it was typically 30 or fewer reps in a single session. So, something to consider. Now we're going to apply these to push-ups, because push-ups, as much as I like them and as great as they are for high volume and as safe as they typically are for most people, we do have a tendency to live in this position. And because the push-up is going to strengthen these muscles, it's also going to possibly tighten them while also tightening the neck, rounding the shoulders forward, so on and so forth. So one thing that we want to do is, for the health of the shoulders, we want to make sure that the triceps are as strong as possible. And for the health of everything else, such as the neck, the chest, shoulders, so on and so forth, you want to make sure that your posture is still remaining good. So doing too many push-ups, it's very easy to throw your posture out of whack, particularly if you're sitting like this all day. So the slow commando rock is going to look like this. You're going to get into position, okay, and you're going to slowly push yourself back. And I'm not getting tense, I'm letting the tension happen naturally. Okay? Same thing on the way forward. I'm kind of pulling myself with my hands, but again, there's not really any tension as I do it. I'm going to repeat just like that. Okay? 5-10 of these, followed by some push-ups, is going to be really, really good for helping to build up a ton of strength. One of the things you might find is that your standard push-up, let's say if you have a rep max of like 10 on the floor, you may consider doing them on a little bit of an elevation in order to get more repetitions. This, one drawback is it has a tendency to be a little bit fatiguing for some people. So if you were to do the bunch of these and then wait like 5 minutes or something like that, and then just do your push-ups or presses, you'd be just fine. But in between sets, it gets a little fatiguing. So just keep this in mind, all right? So now that we've gotten this taken care of, the next thing that we are going to be doing is, actually let me remember, windshield wiper. Okay, now windshield wiper is another movement that you can do with a couple of different variations. So I'm going to start off by showing you the most difficult variation. Okay, got my hands up at the side. I like to have my palms facing up because if I face them forward like this, you notice what it does to my shoulders and chest. You want to keep these open, all right? And you want to keep your back working as much as possible. So the full variation would be to go to one side and then the other. Big thing here, by the way, is that I am keeping my knees at or above the belt line, and they're not dipping below that. So they are always in a position where the rotation of my spine is happening at the healthy part of my spine. I'm not doing them down here and throwing a lot of that rotation on the low back where you do not want it, all right? So aim for your hands as you do this. Now, if the full thing is a little bit difficult for you, you can always do it with the knees fully bent. You can then do them with the knees partially bent. You can also do either of those with one leg straight and one leg bent, either fully bent or partially bent. Okay? So, as a quick recap, all of these movements are going to be phenomenal for helping you to imbue your body with strength as well as mobility, stability, much better recovery in between sets, and it's also going to really improve your technique and make it a lot easier next time you work out, not only to be able to withstand the volume that you're going to be building up to, but also it's going to help you to move quite a bit better, so you're going to be able to handle heavier weights, you're going to be able to handle stronger workouts, meaning where you're doing, let's say, a lot more work than you might normally do, and it's going to feel pretty good too, all right? So if you've got any questions, feel free to drop me an email. I'll be very happy to help you out. And in the meantime, have fun and happy training.